session is called Practical Karma. And I think that a lot of times when we look at karma or even talk about it or try to make sense of it, we think of it in a very abstract way. So one of the things that I want to attempt in this experiment is to kind of bring it down to everyday sort of practice and how you can actually change the dynamics of how you are creating in your life so that the new karma that you're creating becomes much more intentional. So this is about learning to create intentional karma, meaning that you have a choice. And that's going to be an important aspect of what we're going to learn and how to create that space inside of us so that everything around us can begin to change in the ways that we desire it to change. So thank you for joining. And also part of the way I sort of like to create the space in these sessions is please feel free to chime in anytime, meaning to participate when you have an idea, a feeling, or a question, so that it makes the experience a lot more dynamic. So please feel free to do so. Be respectful of each other in terms of listening to each other's ideas and then waiting until somebody's completely finished. And also just be courteous about keeping both the camera and also the microphone mute when you're not using it. So once you complete your statement, mute your microphone. And that kind of sets the stage for us to move forward. And so again, what is karma? And why should you individually care not only what it is, but how does it work? And how does it manifest itself, not only in terms of your everyday space of thinking, of feeling, of doing, and then how do these notes about what the quality of your karma is like actually show up in the way people come towards you, how they are creating around you or with you, co-creating. So all these questions, you know, sometimes we ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? It happens a lot, especially in these days of confusion and almost feeling of being overwhelmed by just things that are in the everyday moments, you know. But there's something in there that we need to discover, and that's the fact that we have a choice in creating that space. So we're going to go into that a little bit. The other thing that I want you to begin to contemplate is, you know, have you ever related to karma in the sense of its effect and how long it stays with you? We think of karma as an invisible force, but actually it's very much present in everyday moments. So we're going to explore how it is we can recognize sort of the effects of our own doing, our own creation, and how it actually manifests around us. We're going to dissect that a little bit and then also create the space for us to become more powerful in relationship to that. So what is karma? So in contemplation of that, can anybody give me a sense of what you believe at this present moment to be karma? So just go ahead and chime in when you're ready. What is karma? Just in its basic understand. What are your basic understanding?
I can try. Karma is the action that has been. Yeah, the karma is the actions that have been performed by myself in the past or past birth, and that action, in terms of the thought that we create, in the terms of vibrations, or the actions that we do by speaking or by the actions we perform. So those.
Excuse me, brother, I hate to interrupt you, but I want to make sure that people are understanding what you're saying. So I would encourage you to either speak closer to the computer, to your microphone, so that we can hear it, and it's also cracking a little bit, so it's breaking up a little bit.
Is it better now?
Very powerful for you to either make an adjustment if Go ahead.
Okay, it's better now.
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you? Is it better now?
Yeah, maybe if you take up the volume.
Okay.
Having to deal with all these little technical issues, sometimes it becomes playful time.
Yeah. So I'll let other try first. Meanwhile, I'll see if I can make my video, audio better.
Okay. Go. Did you want to continue, brother?
Okay. So yeah. So what I was saying is like karma is the actions that we performed consciously in the past by creating a thought for any situation or about any objects or anything in terms of the vibration that we create, even by the thought or by the word or by the action. So that good karmas or not good karmas has ripple effect, and that comes back to us. That we say that creates our destiny kind of thing. So anything that happens in current situations, sometimes we are saying that why it's happening and we don't know. We always do the good things. We never thought anything bad for anybody, or I don't make anybody hurt, but still something is happening. So those actions that we have done, knowingly or unknowingly, in this birth or maybe the past birth, so those comes with us as a consciousness, and that goes with us. So that is the karma, is my understanding.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Would anybody else like to share their relationship to karma and how they understand it?
Om Shanti. Can
Om
I
Shanti.
speak? Okay. Brother, according to me, the karma is an action, whether positive or negative, you perform in your day-to-day life. That's what I mean, the word meaning of karma, as per my consciousness, this is what I think. And it could be, that karma can follow you from your previous birth, from when you perform certain wrongdoings, and those things are different. But the karma means it's an action performed consciously or unconsciously in my day-to-day life, or you can say it's a duty that I do in everyday life.
Yeah.
Om Shanti.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Yes, I would like to say, am I
Go ahead.
clear? Okay, I understand it as you know, as a law of cause and effect. So basically action and reaction in thoughts, actions, and, you know, basically whatever the other two people have said. But I just have to pick up on something that the gentleman said earlier. He said it's performed in the past, but my belief, my understanding is that it continues to affect us even in this birth, and it goes on into our next birth, right? So we have to be conscious. Or maybe I didn't understand.
There's always this question about when does karma happen? When is it created? And we're going to go into that because it's important for us to understand when it's actually being created, and that's a very important point. Also, the other point that I will add to is when we speak of karma, it's not a positive nor negative. It's actually being aware of the effect of what we're creating. So it doesn't have it, and also being aware of that something's going to occur based on what we're thinking, feeling, and doing. And that's really, it's not about it being positive or negative. It's about us being ready and prepared to deal with what's going to come at us based on those creations that we're doing, whether it be a thought, a feeling, or a doing. Okay, so just keep those things in mind. When does karma actually get created? How does it function, right? And how long does it stay with us? Is it something that's just occurred in the past and then comes with us into the present and it goes into the future as well? So is there a way of stopping that cycle of creation? And we're gonna go into that a little bit.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
When you mentioned that when does it get created, and supposing we say, okay, we are affecting our present birth's karma based on our past deeds, then but we don't have any memory of our past births. So supposing I've done something wrong in my previous birth, and with whosoever it may be, how do I know what I've done and how do I correct it in this birth with that particular person?
Yeah, we're going to go into the fact that karma, or at least, so how to look at karma. So what is karma in terms of how it presents itself is,
Okay.
so the next thing that we're going, we'll talk about that. You know, a lot of times karma is looked at as punishment, right? So the punishment I will receive, or that is here because of something that I did wrong. So is it a punishment? So we'll go into that a little bit. Also, okay. in terms of how we are relating to it on any given time will help us actually change it. So can it be changed? Can our karma be changed, right? So that was the question.
Yes. Yes.
Can we actually change the karma, change the pattern of karma? And the answer is yes. And we'll go into how we can start doing that. So okay. Karma also, keep this in mind, karma is just a bunch, it's just a collection of thoughts, feelings, and doings, actions that have been performed throughout time. And the thing to keep in mind is that it's happening right here, right now. It's not something of the past nor the future. I am creating karma right here and now. So that's a very important thing to acknowledge, that I am creating karma with every moment that I am in the process of doing. Right? So as I am creating, I am also creating karma, the quality of my karma. So every little knot that I am tying in terms of action is part of a larger net, a tapestry that is interconnected, and it's going to cause on me, okay? And its effects can either lead to something difficult or something super easy and beautiful. Right? So it's not about good or negative, it's just about the quality of how the actions that will come with me will affect me. So they're either going to be difficult or they're going to be easy. And that depends also on our consciousness that we're creating as we're evolving in our moments. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I want to do this, I want you to look at these questions. So this bag that I'm talking about, so we're carrying with us a bag. And this bag, not only does it include what I've been up to, every single little secret action or every single, action that I've taken in front of people, every little thought, every little feeling, every little action that I've done is there in that bag. So it's not an empty bag, it's pretty full. Now, it's either going to be a really heavy bag if you're been creating lots of negative actions. And negative, I mean that they're weak actions, right? They're weakening you, or they're weakening your surroundings. And there's also an aspect of karma that is very important for us to understand. There's individual karma and there's collective karma, right? So I am creating my individual karma, and then collectively as a society, as a world, as a human race, as this groupings that we do, we're also creating ancestry karma. We're creating national karma. We're creating cultural karma. So all of this action is creating both on the individual level and also collectively. So when we look out into the world, there's a reason why we are where we are, okay, as a society, as a world. So nothing comes by accident. We are consciously or unconsciously creating. And that's very important for us to understand. We're consciously and unconsciously creating and causing upon ourselves and the world. So simple test to see what kind of stuff is in the bag. Look at these questions, and I want you to reflect, yes or no. It's a simple question, yes or no. And I want you to reflect if any of these reflect some of the things that you might be holding in your bag of goods. And these may be pointing to the fact that perhaps there are things inside of yourself, okay? And that's what we're gonna focus on. We're not gonna focus on necessarily going out and changing the world through action outside of ourselves, but we're actually going to focus on going inward, changing the inside of ourselves, our perspectives, so that we can then transform that inside and see what happens, okay? And feel the effects of that. And we're gonna learn how to do that. So can you just take a moment? I'll just read through it. And I want you to contemplate this. And there's no judgment. It's simply just, if somebody wants to, what we'll do is I'll go down, and if somebody wants to answer the question, please do so. So say yes or no. So we get a sense of what's happening in the group. Okay? So do I feel good about the way I am being at the moment? Yes or no? Anyone?
Yes.
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 Any no's?
I feel good as long as I'm not watching the world news. So does that have any bearing on the yes part of the answer?
It does. So generally, right now, we all probably feel really good. So right. So as a general statement, as my general state of being in these days, is it? Do I feel good about myself, or am about the way I'm being? Am I judging? Am I worrying? Am I, all these things come into play. So am I feeling about how I'm creating internally, right? It's important to understand that. How am I internally? So it's a form of emotional intelligence. So I need to know, I need to understand how to interpret and also relate in a positive way, in a constructive way, into my emotions, to the way that I'm feeling, so that I understand whether it needs shifting. So do I feel good about the way I am being? And it doesn't matter whether it's yes or no, because one of the things that we will understand is that as we go through a day, that answer may be yes, and then an hour later it may be no, and then back to yes, right? Because we're shifting according, most of the time, as you pointed out, the news has an effect on us, right? So we are being affected, we're being created upon, right, by the outside world. So the outside world has a lot to do with the way I'm feeling, if you haven't done inner work. So we're going to look at that as well. Next one, I am taking responsibility for my part in the situation. So how many of us are actually saying, looking out into the world and looking at the chaos and the positive, the negative, the difficulty, the challenging, the sweetness and the goodness, all of it, and then asking yourself, what part have I played in creating what's out there, right? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right? So am I taking it personally? Do I take the things that somebody says, does? Do I take the things that are happening out in the world personally?
No.
Anybody does?
No.
No, no one does?
No. No.
You mean outside of the world? Sorry.
Outside in the world, but also in terms of things that are happening within your world, because you're part of the world, right?
Yes, if somebody
So-
in my if somebody in my direct family or my close friends says something that might hurt me, yes, I do take it personally.
Yeah. So we're going to
I don't
see
think-
how, if it's necessary to take it personally, and if it's not necessary, how can we improve our ability to move away from taking things personally? So is my issue in or out of my control? What's in front of me, is that in or out of my control? What's inside of me, is that in or out of my control?
Oh, it's
Anyone?
definitely in our control.
Both in and out?
No, just in, I'm sorry, yes.
Just in. Yeah, okay, so the perception sometimes is that I have no control of what's coming at me from the outside world, right? We're gonna
Yes.
learn how actually we have full control of how the outside world how we allow it to affect us. So in fact, it's in our control. The effect of the world is in our control, right? So
Okay.
our internal world is in our control, but also the way we interpret the outside world is in our control. And that's the effect it has on us. How we look at it, how we feel about it, and how we create story about it is actually in our control. We're gonna look at how that is. So am I judging or blaming? Have you ever said he did this or she did this or they did this or it did this?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're gonna see if it's possible to understand that there is no need to blame and that that's only a defensive mechanism that takes us away from the real work that actually needs to be done inside of us. And that is going back into the sense of responsibility for the part that we're playing in whatever is in front of us. So in my thinking, am I thinking the negative? I think that that's an interesting question. Am I thinking negative, right? Because even that is confused sometimes. What is negative? What is positive? I think that in today's society, a lot of that has become very confused. It's hard to know what is negative and what is positive these days. So are you thinking negative thoughts?
Yes, it comes.
Yes,
At times, right?
yes.
Yeah. Are you complaining?
No.
No.
Mm,
So, you know, one of the things that we'll notice is that, again, as I pointed out, in a day, yes could be the answer to a lot of these questions, and then no, and then yes again, and then no, no, no. And then at the end of the day, it's all yes. So things shift when we are working in terms of allowing things to come in and change our internal world, then we're allowing us to be unstable. So we're gonna see how we can create stability in the way we deal with the outside influences. And if that's possible, right? Is my intention clean? Do we even understand how intention works?
So intention would be to have no waste thoughts and no unnecessary thoughts, right? To have your awareness always be in the positive. Your emotional intelligence has to be so strong as to not allow anything else to disturb you. And to be constantly focused all the time, I guess.
Yeah, so it has to be present, and it also has to be clean. In intention means that the thought needs to be pure, and the feeling needs to be pure, and the action needs to be pure, right? So
Yes.
there is no dirt. So how often are we in that full alignment of thought, feeling, and then being? And is that possible for us to work and also strengthen? So these are some of the things to keep in mind. I have this bag, this karmic bag of accounts. Then as some of you have pointed out, it's just based on the actions of cause and effect of this lifetime. And as others have pointed out, it's just an ongoing cycle of reincarnation from one incarnation to another. And we keep all of those items in this bag that we carry. So we're going to look how we can keep this light, this bag of goods, and how we can possibly clean it up, transform it into something lighter if it's heavy. So we, as pointed out before, is karma a form of punishment? And a lot of people perceive it as punishment, right? Because they focus on the negative aspect of karma that is filled with obstacle, that is filled with difficulty, what is filled with pain, is filled with sorrow. But karma, as I mentioned before, is not a punishment. It actually comes as a form of a teacher. It's here, and as one of you pointed out, you know, karma in the moment presents itself, and it's presenting itself, whatever is presenting itself in this moment is here to teach me. And usually, if it's something that needs to be improved, strengthened inside of ourselves, it's going to become as an obstacle. So these are the tough teachers. These are the teachers that bring lots of strength and lots of growth and open us up into different dimensions of our capacity, of our power, right? So karma is a teacher. It can be a teacher that delights us, that holds us with great nourishment and causes us to just flow with lightness. Or karma is one of those really strict teachers who's here to make sure that you remain aligned with yourself and that you stay the course that is true to yourself. So it's a teacher. And learning to go from that perspective, karma is here to teach me. Also causes a new reflection, a new creation to naturally occur in the way we're processing the moments, we're processing life. It's no longer something to be fearful of, right? So just keeping that in mind, karma is not a form of punishment, but it's a teacher that comes to strengthen us, to show us that we're more than what we've been. Does that make sense?
Yes, but I have a question on this. Can I ask?
What was that?
Yeah, I have a question on this on this karma. It is not a punishment, but it is a strict teacher.
Yeah.
Okay. So that makes perfect sense. But the question that comes to my mind is, like, sometimes we talk about something not happening good to me, maybe some disease or some financial loss, or somebody's taking my money and not returning. So those, we understand the way of the karma. So like some disease or something, then we do some practice of forgiving the people with whom I may not have been good in my past life or past in this current life, and that we do consciously of couple of days that reduce the effect of the karma that have been done in the past. So that when we're doing that part, so is that not kind of punishment or kind of the cause and effect of my past karma?
Well, no, because what that karma has come to teach you is forgiveness, right? So it also comes to teach you to see the situation from a different perspective. So now you're not seeing it as this person necessarily just doing onto you. It's also, forgiveness is an interesting aspect in terms of our actions, because forgiveness must start with us. I must forgive myself for creating a story behind the action somebody else did, which is causing me pain and sorrow, right? So there's that first part of forgiveness that needs to also be implemented. You need to go through that process of forgiving yourself for having created the story, the interpretation of that event, of that relationship, of that action, of that feeling, of that word, in a way that caused you internally sorrow. So the person ends up not doing the harm, but I did it to myself in the way that I took it in, that I created with it, right? So Forgiveness is an interesting aspect, but it needs to start with forgiveness of I forgive myself for the actions I've created against myself. So again, in that particular event, karma comes to teach us. And one of the things that I hear you saying that perhaps you learned was the act of forgiveness, to go beyond what the person did, go beyond taking it personally, and having the capacity to show compassion and also forgive them for whatever it is that you perceive they did. Because again, as karma, the law of karma says, is like what you put out, you will receive. So you putting out goodness is going to bring you goodness in response, and may also cause transformation in that other individual. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Did anybody else have a question? So we're going to look at these things. So I'm going to take the perspective that, you know, karma is a sometimes perceived as a space of spiritual sort of abstraction, right? But I'm going to bring it into a lifestyle. So karma is the lifestyle that promotes positive thinking and action. This is a lifestyle when I become aware of what I am thinking so that I understand how to act, right? In such a way that I am literally creating positive effects. So counteraction is going to be beautiful. So I am taking on a lifestyle where I am choosing, right, to remain on a certain path of positive thinking and action. That's all it is. So karma, because karma, I am creating, I am making a choice to remain in that sense of positive thinking, processing, and acting. What happens is not only is my internal world going to change and strengthen, but also the world around me. And this wheel that you see in this image is basically the wheel of karma. So the wheel goes round and round and round throughout time because it has no beginning and no end. It's eternal. And we're going to go into sort of how we can shift our eyes, how we can change our perceptions. And I'm not going to focus so much on the 12 laws of karma because these are just foundations. I'm going to focus more on how can we go from understanding what karma is to actually, how can we actually shift the way we are creating and processing so that we then begin to produce beneficial karma. And also by creating beneficial karma, we are actually neutralizing past karma that would have had a negative effect, right? So we're creating a balance between the stuff of the past that's still haunting us, right? And we're saying to the teacher, listen, I'm ready to listen to you. Show me what you have. Show me what you want me to teach. Show me how you want me to transform, how you want me to shift, right? I'm no longer going to be stubborn. I'm no longer going to be stuck in my ego, right? I am going to be humble and I'm going to listen and I'm going to start to take the steps towards shifting, changing. And that's what that's about. So karma is a lifestyle that promotes positive thinking and actions. The first law of karma, as we touched already on this, is the law of cause and effect. For everything that I put out in the quality, and just the way I put it out, that's what's going to come at me. And there is no escaping it. So just being aware, there is no escape. I do something that is positive in terms of the creation, something that is beautiful, guess what's going to come towards me? Something that is beautiful. If I create something that is ugly, destructive, and I put it out, then guess what's going to come back? Something that is ugly and destructive. If I take out of greed something that does not belong, and I take more than what I need, that's exactly what's going to come at me. Someone will take from me more than they need. So it's exactly that, cause and effect, right? So if I give love, peace, love will come back to me. So understanding that that's how strict the law is. And that's why, that's how disciplined we need to become. So the law of creation, I am creating. So it's not happening by accident. Something else, the universe is not doing to me. God is not doing to me, right? The other is not doing to me. My brother is not doing to me. My mother is not doing to me. My husband, my wife, my child is not doing to me. I am doing to myself. So the law of humility, the law of humility is the law of being able to accept. That's just what it is. It is what it is. And in order to heal or change, you need to accept what's there so that you know what steps to take forward, how to build on what's already there, right? So we don't want to live in illusion. We don't want to pretend, right, that we're in a place that we're not, because then actual healing does not occur. So the law of growth, it's natural for us to grow and expand, and that's why karma is here, to help us grow and expand. So us being humble allows us to grow and expand in our consciousness, in our understanding, and then in our ability to be in action. The law of responsibility. If I understand that I am responsible for everything that I am creating and that I am experiencing, then I have the power, I maintain, I keep the power to change things around. But if I do not take responsibility and I blame somebody else, then what happens is I'm giving the power to make change happen away. And then I have to wait until I'm ready to take that power back and make the change. So we keep our power by taking responsibility in order to create the shifts that are required. So the law of connection. Everything is interconnected. There is not one insect, there is not one human being, there is not one cloud, there is not one tree. Everything's interconnected. So the way I am will cause an effect in the entire universe. That's because you matter. Every single one of us matters. To the point that we're literally, every thought, every feeling, and every action is literally creating in the universe. How often have you thought of that? Anyone? That you individually, as this energy, this life force, being in this human body, have that kind of power, the power to change the universe. Anyone?
I've had some incidents
Have you
happen
seen
to
yourself with that kind of power?
I've had some things.
Huh?
I've had some things happen to me to believe in this, and also I believe that we all breathe the same air, so we are connected, and we all do have the power within us to change things around.
Yeah. So it's important to actually understand these points, because this karma, these laws of karma, are trying to teach us. They're trying to remind us of who we actually are, the kind of power we hold, and also and also reminding us that there's a need for us to wake up. Why? Because if we're awake and we're creating choices that improve the quality of our inner world, then the outer world also will transform. So the law of giving hospitality, it just simply means that there comes a point in everybody's life where you are tested to see how deeply you are committed to what you say you are about, what is true to you, and are you willing to live it no matter what, right? So So these are simple, the law of here and now, meaning I am present. And by being present, I am taking care of the past and the future. I am present, creating beautifully, right? So I stay in the present moment. I don't allow my consciousness to go either past or future. I remain here looking at exactly what lies before me, and I create with what the factors that are present. The law of change. The only thing that is true in life is that change must occur. So letting go of control. The law of patience and reward for everything that we do, for everything that we set ourselves out to do, there is an aspect of patience that allows the seeds to grow. So when you plant a seed, give it time, trust, faith, nurture it. It will grow within time, and that will be the reward, the fruit. So in anything that we're doing, apply that law, that through patience, we will see the fruit. And it may not come today, but it will come tomorrow or in a couple of days, but it will come. Don't give up. So the law of significance and inspiration. The intention in which we do things is what fuels our enthusiasm, our connection to what we're doing. And that is what keeps the motivation going, keeps the strength of the love, of the passion that we are experiencing. So let us be clear about that. So this is a way of living. It's a lifestyle. And what karma is also here is again, it's a very simple idea. The only thing in life that I have control over is myself. Now, most of us haven't yet experimented enough to understand this. And those of you who have can attest to the fact that once you start on that journey, you begin to unlock a lot of power and a lot of things that are already inside of you that you never would have imagined, that allow you a sense of stability and peace of mind. So the only thing I have control over is myself. When I change my thinking, my feeling and actions, automatically the world around me changes. I don't have to be taking these actions out into the world, because immediately as I begin to make those shifts, I will see my environment around me shift, collectively and individually. So as individual, I will be doing the work that I need to do in order to stay in alignment with what is correct for me. And collectively, I am also collectively giving energy to the planet, right? So keeping that in mind, I am responsible not only for myself, but I am also, causing and affecting upon the planet, causing and affecting upon the ocean, causing and affecting upon the sky, upon the sun, upon the planets, upon each individual soul that is on the planet. So making sure that I've taken care of my inner space so that the outer space remains in a beautiful, beautiful state. So again, I wanted to bring karma into a practical space. So how do I bring this abstraction, right? This thing that you can't touch or feel, but in fact you can touch and feel, right? And the way it's been described in the past, it's an obscurity, but I want to bring it into a tangible, something that you can feel and you can touch and you can do and you can mold. So practical ways to harmonize your karma. You shift from temporary to eternal, meaning that you're no longer just thinking that what I'm doing in this moment is only affecting me and this person, me and the situation. That you understanding that there's an internal cycle, that this little action, I'm going to carry it for the rest of my existence. And whether you believe in eternity in terms of the soul or eternity in terms of there's, reincarnation, or you don't, it's very simple. You will carry that which you create. So paying attention to make sure that you're carrying something light as opposed to something heavy. Weakness to empowering thoughts, weak to empowering thoughts. So you're going to move from weak thoughts, the kind of thoughts that take your energy away, the kind of thoughts that create depression, the kind of thoughts that create disempowerment, that create the illusion that I'm not powerful, that I don't participate just by thinking, just by feeling that I'm actually participating in creating the universe. So values to virtues. I am not going from temporary or that which is local, but I'm moving into the universal in terms of the qualities that I'm expressing. And then I'm going from blame to responsibility. I'm no longer wanting to play the game of blaming you or blaming them for what is happening in my life. I'm gonna shift it to I created this, I'm gonna change it, I'm gonna do with it. And that's a very powerful way to stay. In that space of responsibility is the most powerful place to be. I am responsible for every thought, every feeling, every action I am creating. I am molding the quality of my experience in my life. So it's that important. You are a sculptor. Think about yourself as a painter that is just painting. With every action, you're creating a masterpiece that is either going to look like hell, if you have ideas of what hell could be, or you're going to be creating a painting that it looks like heavenly space. So what's the responsibility aspect? I am responsible for the quality of that painting. I am responsible for the quality of and the shape of that sculpture. So my life becomes the painting and my life becomes the sculpture. I am molding it, I am painting it. So reaction to response. So reaction to response. I'm no longer reacting to the influence of the outside world. I'm actually taking the time to actually contemplate, connect to what is true for me, and then I'm going to give you a beautiful response. Not an ugly response, because I am in the awareness, right, that if I give you ugly, I will receive ugly. But instead, I'm going to take the time and I'm going to connect to my own beauty, and I will give you beauty so that I may receive beauty. So it's a give and take. It's a game. And the way that you can actually, so how many of you are accustomed to making excuses? Anyone? Nobody makes excuses in this group?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That's all we do, I guess.
Yeah. So
lot of
one
excuses.
of the most weakening things that we can ever do to ourselves is make an excuse for continuing to be weak. So one of the worst things we can do to ourselves is creating an excuse for continuing to be weak.
But what if I tell you that that's my reasoning and not my excuse? That's a wrong way to look at it, right?
Well, it's the same, right? Whether it's your reasoning creating that,
Okay,
right? So who
Okay.
created the thought?
I did.
Yeah. So it's your reasoning, right?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
So who created the excuse?
I did.
Yeah. So that's responsibility. I understand that I am responsible for that creation. So, and the way we move away from excusing ourselves from remaining in weakness is we begin to build discipline, because only through discipline fuels the power to change, right? And discipline is a beautiful virtue, and it's a virtue that empowers us to understand our capacity and where we can get to, but only by creating effort, by putting effort. So I become disciplined, I become committed towards making that change, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a New Year's resolution where after a week it's over. and I continue to be the same. If I want to really create beautiful karma and make it practical in my everyday moments, then I practice the discipline of making right choice. So the other thing that we are moving from is it's important for us to understand what is our makeup. So change the lens from temporary to eternal vision, right? So because we think that we're bodies and that we only exist from X period to X period, and the stuff that we do here, it's just gonna, it's done. It's not gonna affect us. So if you don't believe in karma, that's usually the way people think. I'm doing this because there's no consequence, and it's a past moment and it's done. Let me just continue. And that's also what propagates bad action, is because we don't understand that we actually end up carrying that bag. So it's no longer an empty bag. It's a very full bag of very heavy stuff, a very heavy action, because we do not acknowledge, nor are we conscious of the fact that we're taking it with us. So we just we react to everything according to whatever's in the moment. So remember that checklist of yes or no? Our life becomes a series of yes and no's, and those yes and no's keep changing. And according to whatever's in the moment, that's whatever presents itself in that moment, that's how I'm going to be, and that's the quality of my actions as well. And that's because I think of myself as a temporary being, this temporary body, this organic matter that has a beginning and an end. But then I am inviting you to shift that, to understand that your integrated self, this integrated being that has a soul. So first of all, I want to speak from terms that everybody's comfortable with. So is everybody comfortable with the idea of soul? And another way of looking at it is consciousness, life force. But for this particular experiment, I want to use the word soul. Is everybody okay with it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So the integrated self comprises of a soul, a body, and then the sense organs in which the body operates and controls, right? So I, the soul, control the body and the sense organs. Part of me is organic, part of my system is organic matter. And I want you to notice how I changed it from system. So part of my system, I, the soul, have a system. And part of that system is organic matter, which is the actual physical body and all of its components. And the other one is the eternal part of me, which is the light energy. It's the soul. And we're gonna see how these things operate differently, but also when they're operating together in the consciousness of understanding what and how and what it can produce, but also more importantly, how it functions in terms of how the mechanics of it. It's very important because then we can actually operate optimally. We understand that it's no longer I, the body, that is doing, but I, the soul, that is doing. So we're shifting from the temporary aspect of our integrated self. It's no longer a temporary object that's creating, but it's the eternal being that is speaking, that is listening, that is cooking, that is walking, that is contemplating, that is talking to someone, right? Is using the iPhone. It's not just a body that's using the iPhone, it's the soul that's using the iPhone. So keeping those things in mind in context so that we understand what we are fully. So the soul has, and it's important to, and I'm going to focus this part in just understanding the soul a little bit more, because just as the body does, the soul also has an anatomy. And that anatomy, if we understand how the anatomy works a little bit, what we can do is actually make better choices. Because remember that bag of goods, that empty bag that we perceive as empty, or perhaps full of heavy actions, heavy thoughts, heavy feelings, that remains in the subconscious mind, which exists in the soul. So the soul has a subconscious mind where all these impressions, all these actions that I've ever taken, whether in this lifetime or in previous lifetimes, if that's part of your belief system. And then the conscious mind actually creates the thoughts. So the thoughts are actually not created in the brain. They're created in the conscious mind of the soul. So the soul creates a thought. It goes to this other part of the soul that's called the intellect, where decisions, judgments, discriminations are made. So it helps the soul decide what is right action for it. So keeping that intellect clean becomes very important. You as a soul, because you forgot so much about yourself and your relationship to the body, in this process of becoming disciplined and understanding karma, you begin to also flush out experiences of who you are and what you are and your actual powers. So just in brief, the soul has a form and it's a point of eternal light, life force, consciousness, however it is that you want to name it. So this is consciousness is eternal. It can never be destroyed. It goes through these cycles of karma for eternity, not like the body that is born and then dies. But these two, when they're working together in the right way, they become dynamic and they have very powerful participation in what we call the world. So I want to become an integrated being, understanding both my eternal, that which is running the body, and then how the body can be utilized in an effective way in creating the quality of this life that I'm experiencing in this time. So time also is an important aspect, right? So the soul has a form, it has an anatomy, just like the body has an anatomy, the soul has an anatomy, and that integrates with the body. So when we start to shift that space of temporary, from going from temporary, I am the body, to I am a soul that is creating time and space outside of past, present, and future, right? Outside of past, present, and future. This consciousness of soul consciousness begins to arise and begins to awaken inside of us. And soul consciousness is living from the awareness that I, the soul, I, the eternal being, I, the consciousness, I, the energy force, right, is occupying this vessel. So I, the eternal being, the eternal consciousness, is occupying this vessel, this instrument, chariot, body. I, so am doing the doing. So I, so am the one who's doing the action. I am using this body to create action. And I chose this image of this child because there's a magic that occurs in the mother's womb, and there's a point in time where the child, where this embryo is being carried by the mother, and there's a shift in which this embryo begins to behave. Something enters the embryo, right? And it begins to behave differently. It's no longer just a part of the anatomy, an additional part of the anatomy of this woman, but actually it becomes a conscious being. Something enters this vessel, and then just as it enters it, when the vessel has been used for the lessons in this lifetime, then that life force, that consciousness then leaves. As easily as it came in, it leaves, right? So understanding that there is a cycle in which this vessel is going to be utilized. And there's a reason why we've taken this vessel. it's been created perfectly for you, for the part that that you are experiencing here and now. And as I said before, karma is a teacher. So karma does not come to weaken you, doesn't come to destroy you. It doesn't come to make your life difficult. It doesn't come to do anything negative to you. If you process the moments, if you process the situations with the right consciousness, with spiritual consciousness, spiritual awareness, a sense of yourself, then what happens, even the most difficult of situations becomes light and easy. Is there any questions?
Yes. May I speak?
Yes, please.
No, I thought karma was our actions, our own action, reaction.
Karma is actions. A thought is an action. A feeling is an action. Right? Movement is an action. Is that your question?
No, my question is like, I thought like whatever we do, like, okay, thinking about ugly about other person is what we get back. If we do give a good, do a good deed, not with the idea of getting like we cannot be doing ugly things, right? Bad things. So instead we do good things, action, reaction. So I thought karma, the meaning of karma was action, reaction. It's not that way?
It is that way. Yes, it's exactly that way. And so what we're going over is how to actually take charge of what we're creating and becoming responsible. So these are tools by which we can actually begin to create a discipline, a practice, a way of living that allows us to have power over our body, over our thinking, over our feeling, and over our action, so that we can come from the right place. And we can then start creating and having the power to make better choices so that the effect is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, G.
Yeah. So one of
I
the
have
tools
a question.
that
Hello.
Yes.
I'm Cindy. So being in the moment, you made a statement about being in the present, in the moment.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Okay.
Yes, I can
being
hear
in the
you.
moment, being in the present.
Go ahead.
Is this how we can keep our energy,
Can
our
you hear me?
centering? Yes.
Go
I
ahead.
can hear you.
Yes.
Let me type it up.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Let me type it up.
Well, it's better if you just speak it in. Go ahead.
Okay. So being in the moment, this helps us stay centered.
This helps us stay centered.
Well, actually, yes, it's actually a very profound experience to be in the moment, because it's not just about being. So what does that mean, to be in the moment? So first of all, to be in the moment is to be present to your environment. First of all, your internal environment. What's the quality of my thinking? What's the quality of my feeling? What's the quality of where's my body? Is it feeling well? Where's my consciousness? Is it producing beautiful thoughts, right? Is it looking at this situation of all these factors that I am facing? Is looking at it properly? So being in the moment is about understanding the quality of your experience that you're having. So you have to you become conscious of the quality of the experience you're creating. So I am present here, but I understand my internal world and where it is and the quality it is producing, so that when I look out, I'm looking through the eyes of beauty, that I'm looking through the eyes of love, that I'm looking through the eyes of compassion, so that when I hear what's happening in the world, I am listening through the lens, through the filter of love and compassion, right? So I am now in the moment, I am fully stabilized in myself, and at the same time, I am also able to create with what's actually coming at me. I am able to create an interpretation that is powerful and useful. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so how do I build this practice of discipline of the mind? So meditation itself as a practice is strengthening the discipline, your discipline. It's a way of disciplining the mind to be in the right quality of thinking, right? Also to understand that its nature is of a certain quality, and that things that are wasteful need to just leave. So what happens in meditation is you create a practice, a very strong practice of meditation. And what is meditation? In this particular form of meditation called Raja Yoga, it's training the mind, disciplining the mind to understand whose mind it is. So whose mind is it? As we discussed earlier, this is the mind of I, the soul, I, the consciousness. I am the one who's speaking. So I, the one who's speaking, okay, masters this mind that's creating thoughts that are now being expressed through this mouth and shared with all of you. Right? So meditation is a way of processing internally using the power of the mind to keep it focused in the right type of processing and creating thoughts, processing and creating the sensations that are coming internally and externally into my sphere of awareness. And also it's the discipline. So as I meditate, I begin to recognize what is real, what is false. As I begin to meditate on a daily basis, I begin to see what is wasteful, what is beneficial. And magic happens in that space of practice and meditation. You begin to build up energy, strength, to be able to be aligned with these natural capacities that every one of us has. So in meditation, it's a form of disciplining the mind to remain in the right focus and also create the right quality so that you don't go astray, that you're not creating more negative karma. So through the practice of meditation, I am disciplining the mind to remain focused in the right direction, in the direction that I wish it to. So that when I come out of meditation, and meditation also is not about sitting quiet in one place. Actually, meditation is a state of consciousness where you are going inward. Even if you're walking down the street, you can be meditating, right? Because it's about where is the consciousness pointing to? Is it pointing outward towards the world, or is it pointing inward? So I am a meditative state when I am focusing my senses and causing them to acknowledge who they are, what I am, okay? And the fact that they're part of me and I master them. I am the master creator of the mind, the intellect, right? And this full body. The capacity of the body is under my domain. So there's a lot of interesting things that comes from meditation, and one of them is healing. When I master my relationship with myself and master the relationship that I have and create with my instrument, the body, I can also heal the body with great discipline, right? And effort. If I put effort into healing the body, that's where energy work comes from, all these different spheres of study that are looking at holistic medicine, holistic practices, looking at energy. All of those are pointing to the fact that there's more to the physical body than meets the eye. And by meditating and connecting to yourself, you're connecting to this power of ability to heal. And thoughts actually are a critical part of healing. So my thoughts must change from the quality of my physical experience and my spiritual experience to change. So through karma, I become the master. So you're mastering your mind to create beautiful karma. And karma, again, is I am creating, right? It's an action. I am creating an action. I am creating a feeling. I am creating a thought. I am creating a story. And it's all thinking. So the power of the mind needs to be conquered. So I need to conquer this mind that thinks that it's the one thinking, right? Have you ever had that concept, my mind is thinking? Or just the mind is thinking, where you've separated yourself from being the creator of your thoughts or feelings or actions, that you think something else inside of you is actually the author of that action, the author of that story. Has anybody ever had that experience? Anyone? There was a time for sure that I definitely thought that just, the thoughts that were happening in my inner space that I was able to witness were just being created by the mind, that aspect of the anatomy. Because that before I had entered knowledge or the spiritual understanding, I was operating out of the fact that I was a body, and that the instruments that I had to wield, to use, was just simply my hands, my eyes, my ears, and I did not understand anything else. But I still had experiences that pointed to there was something else, and I think that's what drove me towards this, right? So understanding how you can create beautiful karma and how actually that creation, it's just as simple as paying attention to thoughts, the quality of the thought, because the thoughts create a feeling, and those feelings create actions, and those actions become memories. It's the stuff that goes into that bag. And if the thought is negative, or the thought is full of obstacle, if this thought is full of anger, if the thought is full of confusion, then the feeling's going to be confused and the action's going to be confused. And then the stuff you're going to put in your karmic bag that you're going to carry is also going to be heavy. But if you create a beautiful thought, that creates a beautiful feeling, and that creates a beautiful action, and that creates a beautiful imprint, because the outcome is going to be beautiful. So just understanding the simplicity, see how simple it is. I create a thought, that thought creates a feeling, that feeling creates an action, and that becomes my memory, that becomes my impression, because that's what I created and how it affected those around me and how it affected me is what's being stored. So I am the creator of my thoughts. I am paying attention, which is this feeling weak, like it's weakening me? Is it taking my energy away? Is it creating limitation? Is it telling me that I cannot? Is that the kind of thought that I want to create? So you can shift it. The minute you understand that that's not what you want, you shift it. Immediate shift. It's called stop, right? Put a complete stop to that thought and hold it. Say no. Mean it. Commit to it.
So, brother, do you
Yes?
mind if I ask a question?
Sure, please.
Sometimes we create thoughts, we feel good or bad, but then we don't get forward to the action. So, what do you call this process where you are thinking something, you are feeling something, but you are not putting things into the action? Like, suppose if I am mad, but I am not getting angry on anybody, right? I'm not screaming, I'm not saying anything, I'm just quiet. So, what do you
Yeah,
call this process?
I call it karma. So those thoughts, so this is a very good question, because most of us think that just because there is no action in terms of physical action, moving our body into action in relationship to someone else, that there is no karma. But actually, the fact that I created a thought, and especially if a beautiful thought has beautiful karma, and it does not need to be expressed in terms of going through the full cycle of making it into an action. The fact that I just had that thought has karma to it. And why? Because thought is a vibration. So even if you do not speak that thought, it will have an effect on the person or situation that you are having it about, right? And especially if you went through the thought and then you created a feeling, you've added power to that thought, and that power now actually becomes more and more alive and more real to you. So it
So
has
that
an effect. So that thought that was not expressed, that feeling that was not said or shared, is karmic account, right? That's why it's very important for us to understand that the thought process from the root, from the very beginning, that thought needs to be of a high vibration and high quality. And it needs to
so
represent who we want to be.
so same thing even
Does that
sometimes.
answer the question?
Yes, it does, but it the same thing will happen with the good thought too, right? Suppose if I wanna tell my sister or my brother, if I feel like I have a good emotions for that, but I'm not saying those things, and I'm feeling sad about them or happy about them. So you think they are getting
Yeah.
it?
Yes, that's the thing that we don't understand. We operate on different, remember that image that I showed you, the integrated self? The physical
Yes.
body operates a certain way, and then the soul operates in a different way. The soul operates in a vibrational magnitude. So when
But
the
then
soul
why?
creates thoughts, when a soul creates a thought or a feeling, that vibration goes out and it's felt by those who it will affect. So it will affect the world, right? So it
Okay,
doesn't matter
but
whether it's positive or negative. The minute you create it, it's having an effect.
okay, I'm just kind of little confused because sometimes, because I don't very good in expressing, so sometimes when other people are saying thank you or I love you and giving the gifts, and I'm just kind of quiet personality and I don't say that, so they think I don't love them as much as others are doing. They think I am kind of rude or because I remain
Yeah.
quiet.
Yeah, one of the things that you can play around with, which is fun, is play around with your ability to send a good vibration to someone. So looking at them in the eyes. So when they're saying these things and they're sharing these things, look at them in the eyes, and with your eyes, use the power to transcend the aspect of I need to speak, and just send them good vibrations. Create a beautiful feeling, a beautiful thought. You're such a beautiful soul, or a beautiful person, however it is that you want to create. And also bring up that feeling that you may not want to express with your mouth, right?
Okay.
So in your thought, create that beautiful feeling, that beautiful thought, and then create that feeling, allow that feeling to emerge, and then allow your eyes to communicate it.
So
But even if
even
you don't look directly at their eyes, just know that when you create that beautiful vibration, the other will feel it and
so
experience
I
it.
just have to imagine that because everybody is far away from me. I am married in a different country, so I
Yeah.
don't see them for years and years. So all we do
So it's
is
not,
call.
yeah. So it's not about imagining, right? It's about having the faith and trusting that what you're doing is real. So I, the soul, am creating a real vibration, a real feeling, and that feeling and vibrations being transcending through time and space. It means that it can reach the other side of the world in a second because it's operating in a different form outside of what we know to be real in terms of matter. So it's operating a vibrational space. Does
Okay,
that make
so
sense?
yes, it does. Of course, it does. But only the thing is, um, will I see any change in this or no? That's kind of I don't know when it's coming back. Like, will suppose if I'm creating some kind of thought for my brother or sister, like should I expect any response from that or no? It's just kind of a smooth relation.
Yeah, I think that
I
you need to basically, one of the practices, remember one of the laws of karma is patience and reward.
Yes.
Yeah, so understanding that through patience, through you just deciding to give this offering, okay, and keeping it and being disciplined with yourself to always send good vibrations to them across the world. And as you keep doing that and not even requesting a thank you or anything, you're doing it not because you want something in return. That's what the intention is about. So I'm not doing it with the intention of receiving. I'm doing it with the intention of just giving love and sending them good vibrations, good thoughts, right? Good wishes, blessings. And you just keep doing that. And with patience, the reward will come. And you just have to trust that as long as you keep doing that, beautiful things are going to happen. And it really does work.
Okay. Thank you, Bhaiya.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
just have to be disciplined in your mind and also trust that what you're doing actually will have an effect because it will show up. I'll go into my own personal story about that actually just in a few minutes. But
May I ask a question, please?
yes, please go
Mari?
ahead.
Yeah, gee, I have to live in an environment, work, let's say, from 9:30 to about 5 o'clock in an environment where the other person, let's say the head of the person or the other teachers or whoever who I have to work for, they always have a habit of picking, like, you don't have to wrong. If you're seated at a table working with somebody, or, oh, Miss Marie, this is not right. That is not right. Then all at once, Miss Marie, did you do that thing? They are in the habit of nagging and finding fault. You can see that's their way of living. But then all at once I would say, okay, Baba, help me. I'm a point of light. Help me to shed your light. But sometimes, to be honest, I go crazy inside my mind. I mean, I make a quick shift, but I have no way of quitting because the situation I'm in, I'm also in a lonely corner of a world. I don't have anybody around. I just have a couple of friends whom I talk, but I believe I'm a Christian. I believe in Lord Jesus. I believe in everything. Durga Mata, MG, Ganesh, everybody, especially Babaji. I tell Babaji, Baba, here. But how
So
do you stop this chain? They go on.
Here's something for you to contemplate. Stop looking outward for help. Okay? First, take care of yourself in terms of, so it's good you have to center yourself first and then the help will come. So what I'm saying with that is that you need to believe in yourself, in the power of what you're doing.
Okay, living with nagging people is, in short, people who are nagging, the habit of nagging is a thing. So then how do I...
Remember what I said earlier, don't make excuses for remaining in weak habits. So the weak habit is for me to be paying attention to the nagging person, right? So don't allow yourself to go into that weak habit of listening in that way, but instead create a new habit that looks at them and says, look at the wonderful drama they're going through, right? Take yourself apart from it
When they come and say I am wrong, then how do I look at it in a simple manner? Can you tell me? If they keep on saying you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, then what do I do? It's sometimes difficult to.
So again, the same thing about the thoughts. It's if you keep repeating what they're saying to you, I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Me is wrong for them all the time. Me is wrong.
Yeah. So if you keep repeating that also in yourself, what they're saying, then what you're going to do is you're going to disturb your own consciousness about you.
I don't do that, but it's a bother to me. I get annoyed.
Right. So I'm gonna go into another part of this experience, and it will help you.
Okay.
Yeah, it will help you. And then we can go back.
Yeah. I know. I
But
understand.
it will help you because what I'm hearing is that you're allowing the outside to affect you to the degree where you lose the quality of your internal experience, right? What somebody else is doing is taking you out of your peace, right?
Yeah, for a moment.
How do I create the discipline in my own mind to change the lens in which I'm experiencing that, so that no matter what somebody's doing and no matter how long they're doing it, no matter if it's doing it every moment, you are protecting yourself. You're protecting yourself from that experience by keeping the internal consciousness that shields you from that.
So you're going to have the lesson, continue with the lesson with that, right?
That's right. So it's basically about disciplining disciplining your perspective and your position internally, so that when you were in that experience, it doesn't even touch you.
Okay. I will. Okay. Thank you.
And it has to do with this too, because if I know that I am mastering your mind to create beautiful karma, it's really, I am the creator of my thoughts. I am responsible for the quality of my thoughts. I have the power to change my thoughts, and I am creating my karma with my thoughts. So in the same way, in terms of your situation, who's creating thoughts about it after they do the act?
Yeah, even if I tell somebody I love you, that is also wrong. If I say, oh sweetheart, oh honey, do this job for me, that is also wrong for them. So anyway, it's a joke.
Yeah.
Okay, listen to the upcoming lessons.
One of the things to look at is intention. How pure is your intention? You know, when we have somebody doing X and it's been disturbing us for a long time, even if we say a nice word, that nice word may just be, may not be pure enough, because we have all this resentment building up from a long time, that because they've been saying the same thing over in us and it has been affecting us, our emotional state. So when we say nice words, it has to have full alignment. That alignment of thought, feeling, and being, I have to fully be in that pure intention, right? So one of the things that inter meditation that comes up is whether your intention in that moment it needs to be more purified in one way or another.
Yeah, it is G for the kids that I say, okay, honey, for the little 4-year-old or 5-year-old. But the adult, the 65-year-old, 68-year-old adult who hears that, oh, don't call them that. Don't call them love. Don't say that I love them. Don't say, because they are in a different world. Okay, let me listen to the lesson. Thank you, G. I just don't want to, let's continue with today's lesson. Thank you, G. I'll listen. Shukriya.
Yeah. So so again, as we grow in this journey towards understanding karma and how it affects and how I can create with it, what we need to fill ourselves with is spiritual knowledge based on universal truth, and that helps us strengthen our power to remain stable, to not be moved by the outer world. And so knowledge, so, you may be practicing something for 20 years, but if you're not actually creating the discipline to put it into practice, in your moments, then it's just knowledge. It's just a book that's been on a bookshelf collecting cobwebs. So we need to take knowledge and we need to put it into practical use. Otherwise, it's useless. So how are we using the knowledge that we've been absorbing, and how are we practically putting it into action becomes very important, right? And that goes for any situation. If I say I am a peaceful being, then how can you be disturbed by the peacelessness of the words somebody's giving you, or the actions, the ugly actions somebody's giving you? So if I am practicing the discipline of who I am a peaceful being, then I remain stable because I understand who I choose to be, not who I am reacting. So it's a reaction to what's being given to me. I am reacting. I'm going outside of myself and I become ugly. No, the discipline is to discipline the mind. So despite of the ugliness that's being given to me, I am creating beautiful thoughts, not only about myself and understanding who I am, but I'm also giving power to that individual, to that situation, so that it becomes stable, balanced, and peaceful too, by keeping the right consciousness. So it's about my discipline and the strength in which I trust, and I put in practical terms, in practical practice, in the doing, this knowledge that I say I believe in. So how much discipline and trust and faith am I putting into this knowledge that I say I believe in, right? And how much trust do I have in it to create stability? So with these practices of understanding myself, from going from this temporary to eternal, I begin to learn different aspects, different abilities that I have, different responsibilities that I give, and different ways of responding instead of reacting. And what happens as I go deeper and deeper into the practice, then what happens is that the outer influences, my boss, my neighbor, my mom, my parents, and I have practically seen these changes in my own life after, so many years of practice, is that I used to be a very angry person. And my mom can attest to that. She used to say, no matter what they say to you, you're still angry. So wherever that anger came from, I was able to neutralize it and to, by choice, make a different, create and connect to a different quality, right? I much more prefer peace than anger. So I, through time, trained my mind to produce a different quality of thought, to produce a different feeling. And it comes from disciplining your mind to creating these practices like meditation and filling your mind with the right spiritual knowledge that actually makes and builds strength. And ultimately, the reason why you want to do that is because you want to stop the effects of the external influences, the education that you're given, the education that comes about, or experiences that come from your profession, what people have told you, the stories that are created in society that influence you, all the social medias that are influencing you, both positive and negative. So even positive remarks can actually create negativity in you, because now you become full of ego and boasting of yourself. So we have to hold both positive and negative in a balance where it does no longer affect us. And the only way we're going to get there is by understanding how we're creating our karma, so that we become stable in it. And we then, from choice, are creating something different. So one of the things that is very helpful and that has helped me tremendously in making shifts from fear to trust, from anger to peace, is simply playing around with these things called virtues. And one of the things that I found very powerful in understanding is that there is no exception in virtue. And I say that in a sense that we think that things are conditional. So I will be nice to this person because they're so nice to me, right? I will behave this way when the conditions are right. I will speak a certain way. I will be friendly to those who agree with me, to those who look like me. I will trust only those who belong to my religion or whatever. So we create all these exceptions to behaving beautifully with each other. So in virtue, there is no exception. There's no exception. There's no reason why you should not put the virtue into action. Why you should not speak compassionately or listen compassionately. There is no reason why you should not practice simplicity or kindness, humility. There is no exception. There is no excuse in virtue. And that's the discipline that comes from meditation. That's the discipline also that comes from understanding that I am a spiritual being and I am an eternal being. And what I do, I carry with me for eternity. So that bag of goods, that empty bag that is not so empty, and in this present moment, I have the power to choose. So knowing your powers, and these virtues are your powers to create thoughts, to create feelings, and to create actions. And more importantly, they're your tools, they're the foundation of how you can choose to respond to what's happening in front of you that is creating your present karma. So know your power. Know and play and experiment with putting these powers into practical use. Wake up in the morning and say, today I'm going to meditate and I'm going to feel how tolerance feels in all aspects of myself. How does it feel when I see with tolerance? How does it feel when I'm listening with tolerance? How does it feel when I speak with tolerance? What kind of words come out of my mouth when I speak in tolerance? What are the actions that are motivated through tolerance? What kind of relationships am I creating with tolerance? So experimenting with your powers, making no excuses, creating no exception for who and where you can use them. They should be used in every moment. And as you experiment with these, you will discover there's a special power that is very natural to you. Some of us might be really friendly and enthusiastic. Others maybe just have the sense of natural joy. Others may have a sense of creativity, but understanding that particular power that's natural to you helps you ground yourself in every moment. And you start from that. You start from that virtue so that you no longer get upset by the person who keeps saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. You know inside of you, because of your condition, because of the state that you've created internally, that you're staying in peace. that you're staying in love, that you're staying in the wisdom to understand that that's their story. Those are their words. I do not need to take things personally. I remain in myself and my stability, in my self-respect. So know your powers. There are no exceptions when it comes to virtues. Virtues are naturally exist inside every single one of us to be able to be shared and understand that. So, and as we play around with these powers, you increase the power of your spiritual nature, meaning that instead of working from the outside in, that you're just reacting to the world, instead you're turning it inside out. You're actually taking what's inside and you're sharing it out into the world. So through the process of meditation, through the process of actually knowing who you are, you then begin to work inside out. You begin to work from your virtues, and you begin to just have no problem sharing it with everybody and anyone. And your karma will automatically begin to shift. So the relationship of karma becomes, in the present moment, I am creating beauty and with the foundation of virtue, and therefore my karma is being transformed. And what I will be experiencing is clarity, calm, beauty, forgiveness, flexibility, courage, patience, playfulness, truth. So by understanding this is possible, then we give ourselves the opportunity to create the action. And as we clear away the waste, and we begin to work from the inside out, right, for our original self, this blame game that we do, where we are blaming he, she, they, it, wrong me, hurt me, it's because of them that I am experiencing sorrow, it's because of society, it's because of the president, it's because whatever, that ends. So the blame game ends. And I release of ever playing the role of victim. I release the role of victim forever, right? Because I understand that I am responsible for the part that I have played in the creation of whatever I am experiencing. And I have the power, right? Because I am responsible and I'm also the creator. I am responsible and I can create the right thoughts with the right quality so that they transform into beautiful feelings that ultimately create beautiful actions that create karma that is joyful, that is happy. So there is a cycle, there is a connection with everything. And it comes through that sense of responsibility. And one of the questions earlier was, what about time? How does it work? You know, in the present moment, I'm not, when I go out of the temporary into the eternal, I know that this temporary moment, okay, this moment that will come and pass will have an eternal effect because I'm a soul working through this physical body that is intertwined in the cycle of past, present, and future. But I, the soul, am an eternal space outside of time. So every thought, every feeling, and every action I am creating with this body will be stored in the soul for eternity. So it's really important for that whatever you have in that bag that requires for you to forgive yourself first, Remember I said forgiveness needs to occur first with the self. I created a certain type of thinking, a certain type of feeling, and a certain type of action, and a certain story about what happened that I've been carrying for 15 years. So by me being courageous to acknowledge that that's what has happened, I now give myself permission to forgive myself for creating that harm. And I release the karma of I'm a victim, I am in sorrow, I am in pain due to somebody else's actions, words, or deeds. So by forgiving yourself, you make yourself light. Has anybody ever had a situation where you have held resentment, anger?
Yes, I have had. I was just about to ask you. I have memories that feel more like thorns. How do I convert those memories into flowers? And I just heard you say to forgive myself.
Yeah.
But those memories that are feeling like thorns have come because of the actions of some direct family. So I forgive myself first and then forgive them also.
Yeah, it's because the perception of what
Okay.
actually happened. So here's something, it happened, right? An event happened. A word was said, an action was taken, a feeling was expressed, right? And it created something inside of you, right?
Yes.
And then you created a story about what happened. And it's that story we internally create that actually we take with us as a memory. It's not what actually happened a lot of times.
Okay.
It's actually what I created myself. That's actually, I've decided to carry it with me for 15 years, 8 years, whatever. And
So
that's
it's my emotional manifestation of my own thoughts.
It's basically the story that you've created about an event that happened. Sometimes, have you ever had the experience where you said, something, I've been holding this for X number of years, and they may respond with, oh, I totally forgot about that. It never even affected them.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, so that's what happened, is that the interpretation of that moment is entirely our creation. And that creation is what's causing me sorrow, separation, the need to separate, the need to hold anger.
So what you're saying is that the person who has harmed you does not even have any memory, but yet I am giving that person and that event so much thought that I'm only hurting myself.
That's right. Because the person, your perception that somebody harmed you is also is in error. Because nobody harms us, right? Nobody if you think that they're harming us, you're thinking in the space of body consciousness.
Okay.
They hurt me, the body, the relationship that I am having with this person at the moment. So something about what they said or what they did was about the relationship, or had in consequence something to do with the relationship I was playing, the role that I was playing with them.
All right.
And so from the eternal space, you go outside of the role you're playing with them, and you look at it from the eternal space of I, the soul, and that soul as well. And as we've discussed in the game of karma, are they creating against you, or are they creating against themselves in whatever action they're doing?
So they're against themselves.
That's right. So it had nothing to do with creating against you if you really put faith in the law of karma. Okay. So the only person that created against you was who?
Myself.
That's right. So my thoughts, whether positive or negative, any thought that I'm creating in reaction or in response to the outer world, and if it happened to be one that creates and causes sorrow, that's a creation that I have inflicted upon myself. So that's a wound that I've self-inflicted, right?
Yes.
So karma, yes. I can only touch me. I, the soul, can only create against myself. And whatever another soul does, they're only creating towards themselves, right? It's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of whoever, whatever they have, whatever capacity they have to process and to be with life, right?
Okay.
So
Yes.
instead of actually awakening a sense of resentment or anger, it's going to awaken a sense of compassion and
Okay.
love, because you understand from, if you are putting faith in the law of karma and yourself as a spiritual being, then you're putting faith in the sense that they are only harming themselves by actually creating those kind of thoughts, taking those kind of feelings, and also creating those kind of actions. It may look like they're towards me, but in fact, they're only towards themselves from a spiritual perspective, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we begin to change those different lenses of the ability to see, what we're doing is we're transforming our capacity to understand. And it's only through wisdom that is founded, that is grounded in universal truth, that allows us to see the eternal aspect of what's occurring here and now in this physical body. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. It's very well explained. Thank you.
Yeah. So make yourself light, right?
Yeah.
Forgive
Yes.
yourself.
Yes.
Make yourself light. Let go of whatever is in that bag that's still haunting you, that doesn't allow you to sleep. Knowing that whatever word, whatever feeling, whatever action somebody has expressed in front of you, okay, is only an action that that soul has done towards themselves. And all you have to do is take care of your part. Make sure that you're not creating an action, a thought, a feeling, or an action that is going to be against yourself. Instead, create one that is in harmony with yourself, that makes you even more beautiful, and that also creates a path for them to remember their true nature and their qualities, right? So you as a person who has the stability, who has the discipline of mind, of heart, and action, you will influence that other soul to be that powerful too. So make yourself light. Only I have the power to pardon, so I must forgive myself. I must release myself from my guilt of what I've done. I must release myself from the feeling of responsibility that I am obligated to do X, and the punishment that I have been inflicting upon myself for however long, thinking that they have done wrong to me. But now I'm going to forgive myself for the action, the thought, the feeling that I've done against myself as a spiritual being. So every thought, every feeling, and action is stored in the soul. That's what goes into that bag of goods. And as you said, my memories are like thorns. I had a situation that lasted a couple years, and it was about betrayal. I had worked with somebody for 18 years and had given what I would say my entire being to the cause. And for a very long time, I had perceived it as betrayal to me. But then through the knowledge, after some years of really working in understanding the relationship, but also why I had done what I did or how I participated and what the true intention was, and coming to the realization that I wasn't doing it to get something in return, but in fact, I was just doing it because I loved what I was doing and I was enthusiastic and passionate. But the act of somebody not having the discipline, nor the courage, nor the strength to actually keep their word in their agreements caused me to actually create the story that they had acted upon and against me, and that they had wronged me. And it's only through the discipline of meditation and really churning the knowledge, that I began to awaken a different understanding that allowed me to free myself from the pain, that sense of sorrow, the sense of regret, the sense of anger, and just release it so that I can then be light and be able to see that same experience. Now I see it as one of the greatest teaching experiences, because I understood what real intention means and how it transforms someone's life, and the importance of remaining true to your own sense of direction. And so it's all about how I'm creating and how I'm using the power of creation. So just keeping that in mind, I am creating my joy, I am creating my sorrow, no one else is. And through this process that we go through in becoming more disciplined with ourselves, becoming more gentle, kind, and where we are creating the space where we're actually able to hold ourselves, literally as if we were little tiny seeds sitting in soil. And if you can imagine that tiny little seed, and you water it, and you put it, and you allow the sunshine to nurture it, and you're patient, and you're loving, and you're trusting, and you just keep trusting that that seed is going to burst into a little tree. So you continue to water it, and hold it, and offer it more love. And then when the first leaf appears, you become enthusiastic and exciting. And you continue to water it. Then it turns into a majestic tree. And this journey, in terms of spiritual journeying, it's really about that. It's changing the way you hold yourself from one which is of control, where the hands feel as if you're just squeezing the seed in your hands, instead of just holding it with open palms and allowing it to take its time. So you're going from that sense of lack of faith, lack of self-respect, into cultivating pure thoughts, pure feelings, and pure actions. So, and we call this, in this particular journey of spiritual awakening, as we may call it, is awakening the pure vision of the self, a pure vision of everything around me. And working out of that pure vision allows me to create a new experience of karma, one that is light, one that is easy, one that is full of learning, because even the most difficult of situations become light and easy, because there's a certain synchronicity to what's happening. So awaken pure vision, and that cultivates pure thoughts, feelings, and actions, and create a beautiful garden of flowers in your mind, because that's the beginning of every creation. The quality of my thoughts is creating the quality of that sculpture, that painting that I'm painting. Is it going to be one of hell, or is it one of heaven? One of beauty, or one of ugliness? However it is that you want your painting, that's how it's going to be. And whatever effort you put into it, that's what you're going to get. It's really simple, law of karma. But you stabilize your karma by having awakening your pure vision, so that there's consistency in your experience of joy, your experience of stability, of courage, of strength, of trust, of faith, of connection. So we're almost at the end of our time, but I wanted to experiment a little bit with you to see how you have gathered the information, how you may be able to process it in practical terms. And I'll give you an example just from my personal experience that actually just happened maybe a week ago. So what is the quality of the karma I choose to create, right? And so I had I was out and about, and then I got an email, and the email said, your insurance company, it basically was from my insurance company, and said the bank has refused to make payment on your auto pay for the month. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. So I looked into it, and I looked at the bank statement, and then I noticed that there was just a slew of transactions that were happening with large amounts, and basically it ended up basically emptying out that particular bank account. And I was like, okay. So again, it wasn't like just okay. It was more like, oh my God, what's going on, right? So I called the bank and I started to ask them what's going on. I am calling because these things are happening. And what was really interesting was that the bank's response was, we see that those transactions are happening. They're still pending, but they've been approved. So we're gonna just pay them out. I said, I'm the one whose account it is. I'm calling to report fraud, and you're still gonna pay it out. I don't get that, but okay. So what can I do to stop this whole process from continuing to happen? And so it was just mechanical, right? You know, you call them and they just mechanically respond without thinking. So, and that's sort of how we are in life. Sometimes we act without thinking. We're not even thinking for ourselves anymore. We're not taking in the factors that are present in the conversation. We are not really listening. And so this person clearly was not listening, not only to the heightened excitement in my voice and passion about I wanted something done, but I also was not listening to my tone, and I was not. And then at a certain part of the conversation, I began to listen, and I began to make correction, where the person who was on the other side was not at fault. And so I tried to become more calm, and I tried to be more aware and responsive to the way I wanted to be. And so I shifted that around. But it was hard. I kept going in from being passionate and enthusiastic and upset about it to coming back into my motion. But it was really a sense of commitment, of not making excuses for my behavior, even in this sense of response. And the interesting thing about this whole situation, that as these things were being taken away, there was these other things that were happening at the same time. Like a friend of mine just happened to need different assistance, and so I allowed someone to stay in my place. And through that process of just intertwined synchronicity, it all worked out. I was able to not only accept, but also the right assistance came, and just everything started to happen very synchronistic, meaning that one thing led to another, to another, to another. And all of a sudden things harmonized in a way where it's still out and it's still happening, but internally it just shifted. So I understand that a lot of times laziness and our lack of trust and a lack of faith, not only in ourselves, but in the universe at large, keeps us from remaining in that discipline, in that sense that virtue has no exception. And that no matter how difficult it does get, and it can get, that I will choose to remain in a specific space, even if I struggle through it, which I did, that I will commit to coming back into that space of who I am. So it's really, I know that a lot of times we feel that whatever situation is presented before us, that we feel we cannot accomplish it or do it. But I also know that when those difficult lessons appear, and this is just through experience of going through a lot of different things, that when those difficult experiences appear, that they appear at the right time, and that the conditions for each one of us to move through them with elegance and self-respect will always be present as well. And all we have to do is be disciplined in the way we keep our internal stability in motion, and that sense of trust and faith and courage to not be blinded to the eternal aspect of this wheel of drama, to this wheel of karma that's occurring, because in every wheel of difficulty, there's also something that will bring it into ease and into balance. And we just have to be creative. And so that's just my personal way of, so the way I was first intaking it, the way I saw it was out of fear. And then slowly I began to transform it, just thank goodness for the strength of the knowledge and also the discipline. And then I began to process bringing into some kind of story, some type of meaning, not only in terms of what was happening mechanically, but also about my story of how I wanted to store this particular event in my life and how I wanted to create with it. And then in terms of the output, how I responded to them needed to change. So I shifted in the moment, but I also am shifting the way I'm thinking about it and how I'm constructing. And that changing in the environment I created and am creating with my thinking is actually calling upon different resources, and different doors are beginning to open. So ultimately, this is still an event that's in process, but how I will store it as a memory will not be one of weakness and disempowerment, but I will store it in a way that will bring me benefit. And that's my responsibility at the end, that this is not going to be a tragic event, but simply an event that brought me into a different form of understanding and a simple example of how I can practice the knowledge in very practical ways. So am I ready to take responsibility for the effects of my being? And that's only each one of us can answer that question. So with that in mind, I wanted to just ask somebody else who may have a story to share in which this kind of transformation can occur, where even if you have not yet processed it in that way, in order to release some karma, some of that inner conflict, would anybody be courageous enough to offer a situation? Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello? Hi, Christy.
Oh, hi. Hi, Santiago. I'm actually happy to share what I've learned about myself. I was diagnosed with cancer this year, with cancer during COVID. And being diagnosed with cancer was probably one of the best things to ever happen to me. in many respects, but it allowed me to release my entire life. My mother actually, she died of breast cancer when I was 21 years old, and I've never forgiven her for it. She chose 7 months. I've had 2 surgeries. I'm about to have my 3rd. And then I'll be officially in cancer remission. My mom chose not to fight her cancer. She actually hid it from our family, and she succumbed to the disease after about 10 years. It metastasized to every bone in her body, including her brain. And I didn't have a chance to spend any time with her. And at that point, I was in therapy for it. And my mom was actually an alcoholic, abusive. Her mother had died of cancer when she was 13, and she had never healed that wound herself. So when my mother died, I was very angry with her. I felt very betrayed, and I felt abandoned. And I haven't let that go for 15 years. And it's had a lot of negative effects on my life. I found forgiveness for my mom. You know, the world is a mirror in many ways. And I realized, you know, I felt betrayed by her, and she abandoned herself. She betrayed herself and attacked me, and to protect her family from the cancer, because at that time, you know, some could say she felt too weak to fight it, but in her mind, she may have been too weak. She may have felt a victim. I don't know. She felt she was protecting her family from the tragedy she experienced when she was 13 years old, was on hospice, and she never forgave her mother. So in many aspects, this has been an intergenerational curse on my family, because her sister also died of breast cancer. So, you know, cancer for me has been a journey of empowerment for many ways, because not only have I had to forgive my mother, but then forgive myself, where I realized I'm in this habit energy of victimizing myself in certain situations. And I've realized that a lot of these causes and conditions, actually right now in a very difficult financial situation and in a situation with my former boss, and I've been living like a victim, you know, much of my life, given what happened with my mother and some other trauma and family tragedy, you know, throughout adulthood, because we all experience trauma. But ultimately, I've been able to forgive myself and transform my experience through cancer, because I realized a lot of the past decisions I've made where I felt like a victim, I was making those choices out of fear, and we all make choices out of fear. So cancer was I've driving my body into the ground my entire life. I haven't taken any responsibility for my physical health or my emotional health. And I've gone through, you know, cycles of depression and anxiety. And when I was finally diagnosed with cancer, this was the first I actually showed up for myself in my entire life. I was accountable, and I went to doctors, and I was responsible. I've probably had 150 doctor's appointments, since the diagnosis in April. And so in many aspects where I felt weak, I felt like a victim, cancer actually showed me how I am, and cancer has changed the relationship with myself. It's changed my relationship to suffering, to pain, and now, you know, I realize it did harm on me, but I am the common denominator in all of these situations. You know, I'm not a victim of anybody. I'm only a victim of myself. I'm a victim of my own thoughts, my own feelings, and my own actions. So even though people have, you know, committed harm, perceived harm against me in the past, ultimately, you know, I have to change. I have to make the shift. You know, and in many aspects, I believe I created the cancer myself because I've been harboring, you know, resentment against my mother and, you know, other tragedies and traumas which have happened in my life, which we all experience. So, you know, to sum it up, cancer has been one of the greatest teachers in my entire life. I've been so blessed, you know, by the graceful arc of its teaching. I'm just so fortunate that it happened to me at 25, so I could, you know, change this cycle and release a lot of my karmic debts, you know, and then actually build a more nurturing and loving relationship to myself, because it turns out I never loved myself. But now I found true love for myself through the act of forgiveness and letting go of all of this past suffering. And thank you so much, Santiago, for your discussion. It was so enlightening, and I identified with so full. I'm just so touched by everything that you discussed here today.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. It takes a lot of courage to confront, you know, to be face to face with what is present in our lives, and then take a stand. Take a stance of self-love and self-respect, and take a stance of compassion that is required in order for us to transform. So thank you, and I hope that you will continue to do the work necessary for you to really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe you said earlier in the talk. To do the work necessary for you to. Said earlier in the talk, we're in that stance of victimhood. Why is this happening to me? You need to change that. Why is this happening for me?
For me.
What is this teaching me?
Yeah.
So that I can grow and overcome. Yep. Why is it happening for me? Absolutely.
I will take that into definitely take it in and make the shift. Thank you so much for that suggestion.
Thank you for sharing your life situation with us. I don't know your name, but that was a very, very powerful narration, and I wish you all the best with your healing process through cancer. And if you're in the LA area, if you need my help with anything, I'll be here for you. If you want to reach out to me, my name is Manju.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Many times as an opportunity for transformation, and that's how I viewed my experience with cancer.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing it.
Thank you, Santiago.
Thank you for being courageous and compassionate towards all of us. For, you know, we learn from each other so much, but we need to keep our minds to each other in order to learn. So, that's kind of like the part of the lesson I think that we are being called to learn in this situation that we find ourselves with as well, through this sort of space. Would anybody else like to also add their own in terms of how this we intake, we create, we listen, we hear, we feel, and then the process of creating a story about it, and how sometimes that story is the cause of our own pain. So going back and rewriting that story, it becomes harmonious, it becomes beautiful, and becomes funny. And then we then are able to give of ourselves to the world in terms of how we communicate about it, and then how we can create benefit from it. And then again, how it is stored away in a way that creates peace of mind. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Yeah, my life, I'm married. My
Uh-huh.
whole life is like, it was not beautiful at all. I was like born to a good family. My mother would abuse me all the time. And then she proposed my husband. She got mad. And when I went in for a breakdown, he called in for a divorce. Then I was drugged totally with medication. I was tied to a bed. I was drugged. And then I don't know if I did share this, then this Mr. Rawat from India, Calcutta, because at that time Sri Lanka couldn't have their center because of the communal situation, the right situation. He came in disguise, and we got this Australian teacher, Chris Connelly, to start off a center. And then my schoolmate was married to Rawat. So one day when I was heavily drugged, I just vaguely remember this girl standing by the side of my bed. And she said, Marie, I want to take you to a doctor. I said, no more medication, because I would suffer in the night. I couldn't sleep. A lot of things went wrong in my life. And I was like, not myself. And then she introduced me to Raja Yoga. And this Raja Yoga has turned me into a, I don't know what I could say. Today, I didn't expect to come to the United States because my children were here. My visa was rejected. I was like, in life, I was ridiculed. Everybody laughed. Even following Raja Yoga, they say she's mad. She's going after that teacher. Then when I used to call Baba, they would mock at me. It was like total. But today at 64, I received knowledge when I was about 20 years ago, 30, I think 40 or 38 or 38, should be 40. And then, yes, 38, 40, that was the time I broke down. Today, taking the knowledge, I listen. I used to go for daily Murli, then I sponsored the center. I'm a very strong woman. It's because of this knowledge. And even this COVID virus, and when Geeta ji said you had to come for daily Murli, and I was asking Baba, oh my God, how do I do this? I don't have any transport. I had to use public transport. And I'm under somebody else's roof. This lady is really good. I try to see the good side, even if she's impossible. So, but I have transformed this situation also for me in this by giving good wishes. So today I can say, after coming like the Zooming classes, I just don't know. It's a gift from Baba, Brahma Baba, and everybody. I can't say no to it. So I'm truly strong. If we take the knowledge seriously, if we put into practice, if we really, really follow what you brothers and everybody, the Adis and the Didis and everybody say, I think it brings a transformation in the environment, in the world, and universally also, because I'm praying for this COVID thing. And then when I think, oh my God, I should pray. And today was my brother-in-law's birthday. Then, I just took the call and they said, we are in prayer. So I thought, okay, and he was going to keep the phone. I said, no, don't keep the phone. I will join you. So I wanted to give light to the entire world because everybody is affected. So it really brings, actually, what you say is true. It's like the shift in me that brings about a change in others. So thank you for everybody listening, because life was hell. But now I'm telling you, life is so beautiful with all the teachings that I got from you all. Thank you to the Brahmin.
One of the things that you should also possibly would take benefit from becoming more aware is the fact that outside of everyone else who perhaps has given you knowledge, is that you've had the courage to allow that knowledge to go in, and you also have worked deeply to be able to make functional use of it, right? So I think that it would be beneficial for you to acknowledge the fact that you've done so much work, and also give yourself some wonderful credit in terms of self-love towards the fact that you were courageous and you showed yourself self-respect and enough compassion to allow yourself to move forward without getting stuck with the wounds.
Oh, yes, yes, I did. Yeah, there was a time I got stuck with the wounds, but not anymore. The more I bless the situation and gave good wishes, I think I was able to come out of that wound. Exactly. That's the lesson that I wanted to share. Also, one more thing before I wind off. In the school, I do a lot of janitorial services, keep the thing going on because I had to keep myself busy. I'm lucky to get that job too. There I have started, I play a commentary for the 4-year-old and the 5-year-old kids, and I have started the Om Shanti. There is a nice commentary meeting with God that goes on, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. And then, I play this music after lunch for 10 minutes. Everybody wants now, every class wants that happening. So I'm just gradually, maybe one day they will know who the Brahma Kumaris, and I want them to join them. That's my intention. Yeah, I play this, and you must see how they have changed, because these children can't take control of themselves. They run. But when I play, they also go on Om Shanti with that song. Yes. So that's how I'm taking it out to the world.
Thank you so much for your wonderful comments and sharing. I appreciate it deeply. And I just wanted to remind, there is a recording of this session for everyone. And all you need to do is request it from the center. Also, if you have any questions, there's information on the screen, how you can send questions out to me or to the Los Angeles Brahma Kumaris Spiritual University. Again, anybody who wants to pursue a deeper understanding